3 Count Thursday is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app, that's arenaeats.app, for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order? But changing complete different direction, let's pick up where we were talking about on Thursday night. We were talking about, of course, the situation with the WWE and Zelina Vega, and the desire to kind of change the employment culture with the WWE. Every wrestling fans, and obviously the tweet from Zelina about unionization. It's obviously a hot topic. It has been for a while. There seems to be a few instances a year where it kind of pops back up. And I did go and I listened to Mark Henry on Busted Open. And I think he hit the nail on the head pretty good there. I listened to the first 30 minutes of 83 Weeks, but sometimes when Bischoff talks, some of it kind of goes over my head. But I think that was kind of the point. And he obviously brought up about, how Andrew Yang has been very vocal about, kind of coming for Vince McMahon in the WWE. And this was something that I kind of said on Twitter, and I didn't put it in nearly like the intellectual sense that Bischoff kind of outlined, though. But it is a slippery slope, because if you come after one, you're kind of coming after all of them. Like, everybody wants the WWE to change, and in instances, in situations, yes, there are absolutely things and ways that they need to change, but it's an entire industry. It's not just the WWE isn't the only one, so it's going to have an impact on AEW, on Ring of Honor, on Impact, and down to larger indies, smaller indies. Like, it's going to have a ripple effect through the entire industry. That I don't know that when people just throw the word union around, that they truly understand the potential ramifications of that.
Agreed. I think the one thing that Bischoff said in the podcast on 83 Weeks was not so much that he pretty much disagreed with the idea of a union, but he did agree that some concessions need to be made in the way of how we are actually defining the term independent contractor. Which I completely agree with. Like, if you're labeling me an independent contractor, like most independent wrestlers are, they are free to work, or not even independent wrestlers, but if anybody claims to be an independent contractor, they're allowed to work when they want to work, not work when they don't want to work, and do anything in between that time that they so choose. It is very odd because WWE uses that to their advantage in the way of contracts.
Yep.
Because as an independent contractor, you do not have to offer things like benefits or 401ks or pension or anything like that. But at the same time, they're holding court and keeping people from, or keeping their talent, which oddly enough, apparently it's only the main roster talent. There's a recent report that just came out that NXT talents are not held to the same esteem.
Huh.
So all NXT talents are still allowed to have their
third-party accounts.
Their third-party accounts, like Adam Cole.
Oh, okay.
So Adam Cole can still stream, but it's probably because main roster they have their downside guarantee, and they made more money based on house shows and things like that. Where
And
NXT,
things like
merchandising.
correct, where NXT, it's a flat, like some of those guys are still like on developmental deals or like NXT exclusive deals where they have the ability to go and work main roster, but their contract changes when they get called up. Like it's a completely different contract.
well, didn't
I hear what you're saying, Tim. And Scarlet Bordeaux OnlyFans.com going now.
Yes.
Well, because didn't one of the New Day guys on New Day Pod talk about when they were first called up that they were working on both like they had both deals, right? They had their NXT deal, but then for whatever they worked on the main roster, they got paid for that as well. It was like
that was Woods
yeah.
because so when that was back when he was on an FCW deal.
Okay.
But like so as an FCW talent, it's still the same way with NXT. Transportation is covered.
Okay.
For the developmental guys. Whereas on the main roster is responsible for their flights, or no, not their flights, but they're responsible for their rentals and hotels.
Okay.
I think.
That sounds right.
Two of the three things between flight, hotel, and car is piled together. And the reason why I remember it is because Woods was talking about how he had the free car and he made nice with dudes on the main roster saying, "Hey,
Smart.
I got a car, just ride with me, save your money."
Smart.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
it's on the dime. Like it's on the dime.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I mean, that is where that line is kind of blurred and gets a little tricky because, yeah, I mean they are, by all accounts they are contracted employees versus, because they can't go and do Raw today and Impact tomorrow and AEW on Wednesday. So and I don't know, I don't know the status. It's because it's not just a WWE thing, because if we're talking about the industry and we're talking about people wanting to make a change to the industry, now yes, it was the catalyst to this was the Zelina Vega WWE situation, but when, and I know AEW does allow talent because Moxley has worked Bloodsport. Obviously their talent still has other revenue ventures, but and they've worked other indies, but I don't know, do they have to, and I don't know if you know this or anybody knows this, if Moxley wants to work, an indie in, Memphis, does he have to get AEW's approval for that because John Moxley is all elite, or can he just go work that date? Is it do we know that?
I know he worked Bloodsport.
Yeah.
I think at bare minimum, I mean, and again, this is just a guess, but you would run it by before you would take that date.
I mean, I would imagine a smart individual would,
right,
would kind of at least give them the heads up, but I didn't know if anybody knew if they had, quote unquote, had to.
Right.
I don't know if they have to, but those federations have always kind of given that flexibility, it seems.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know if AEW does, but I know Impact has certainly been loose with theirs. Ring of Honor for sure, New Japan, and I think Cody would probably have that mindset. I can't say 100%, but he seems to be the type if you have the opportunity to make your money, but within reason.
Right. I just wasn't sure. I didn't know what the, because I mean, obviously when somebody signs with Impact, and I assume it's a similar situation with Impact as well, where you have to, at least run it by them. It's not that they have to, that they're not allowed to. But I would imagine that, you know, for example, Gallows and Anderson, you know, if they were to want to go work, you know, and like I said, an indie show in Oklahoma, they would probably at least, hey, I'm going to do this sort of a thing. Like, you're not necessarily a, can I do this? More of a, you know, I want to get booked on this or what have you.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing too, is that like those type of high profile guys like Mox or anyone like that, they're not taking a date that isn't making money.
Well, that's true.
Like an indie date is a quick and easy, like $3K, $5K, but the risk of going out there and possibly getting hurt could impact your TV time, your push, whatever you have down the line. Like,
sure,
this is all rumor and innuendo and speculation, but like Mox, say for example, the world was everything was fine and the world was great and indies were running, and Mox took an indie date over Thanksgiving break. Okay. Mox wrestles, he's in Lebanon and he's working for CCW and Valor.
Right.
Okay. He gets hurt by anyone.
Or he just, you know, or he, you know, comes off the top rope, blows his leg out, you know.
Yeah. Okay. So he's got a title defense on December 2nd.
Sure.
And I still believe he's the IWGP United States champion. And there is a thought process that he may be losing the title to Kenny Omega so that he can travel to Japan, quarantine.
Yeah, he is still the champ.
And defend the title at Wrestle Kingdom.
Smart.
So if he got hurt, he couldn't make money at AEW.
Couldn't make money in New Japan.
And he couldn't make $1 million working for Inoki.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean those names is kind of so like the tag team, right. the AEW, you know, those guys,
top flight.
Like I would imagine like they probably do have the ability to go work those shit, but I just didn't know if anybody knew like the policy of whether or not they have to get,
I would assume,
quote unquote, approval.
At bare minimum, there's like a morality clause that they'd have to play by, that like you can't go wrestle with something that would sully the name of yourself and then return back to our televised program.
I would also like to think that while they do leave it open for some wrestlers to go work indies, the wrestlers that do work indies are less likely to get play on Dynamite. And
sure.
They are more relegated to dark.
Yeah.
Like Joey Janela.
Yeah, very true. Because he still does the GCW stuff.
He loves his indie stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't sure what the
Mr. Dark.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure what the if there was, you know, if anybody was aware of like the actual policy. But yeah, it's
I don't know.
Yeah, it's you know, and I do think that the WWE's you know, the way that they conduct business is a bit, you know, is a bit aged, you know, and it is something that they could certainly update and make more user friendly. Absolutely. I mean, you know, and obviously we have seen since our last show, I don't think these were, maybe it had already been announced, but $30,000 for 30 Undertaker cameos through the WWE. And you know, the first thought I had, and everybody, you know, I saw a lot of people like were up in arms about it because, okay, so you won't let people have their platforms, but you're doing this. I'm like, yeah, because the WWE is getting their cut of it. You know,
are they?
I would imagine.
Well, here's the thing. What if Undertaker had already bargained out meet and greet money in his WWE contract, and any money that he makes on live appearances outside, because he doesn't wrestle all the time?
That's true.
Like,
yeah, he may certainly have a different deal.
Like, and that kind of goes to like the conversation of Mark Henry is like, you get what you negotiate for.
Sure.
Whether it's negotiated on the front end before you do something or negotiated after the fact, you get what you ask for, or you at least you have the opportunity to get what you ask for. I just find it comical that like all of this could have been resolved if WWE had just let it slide. Like, I'm very curious as to who in Titan Towers or whatever building they're out of now, who's the guy with the abacus and the ticker tape counting zeros to how much money WWE is losing on overhead or losing period for these deals with Twitch and Cameo and everything else. Like
Jack Tunney.
He's crooked anyways.
Rip.
Like, but it's just, if they let the sleeping dog lie, one, the talent would still be happy.
Right.
Two, the new presidential administration would be off your back. And three, you would avoid unionization talks.
Right.
Like, those three things have happened since WWE put the kibosh on cameos and Twitch channels and YouTube channels. Like, I
feel like union talks have happened before. This
Jesse
time
Ventura
it's
was
a
a
catalyst
big
because of this.
Yeah, Jesse was a huge proprietor or a huge proponent for it. I think to a certain degree, superstar Billy Graham was for unionization too.
I think
like, it's cyclical. Like, it's every so often there's a group that speaks up about
Indie
the
wrestling
idea.
had a squeaky wheel.
I feel like they don't even necessarily.
Oh yeah, that guy. We don't talk about him anymore.
I feel like they don't necessarily
Maximum Stars
need a
Sure.
union. They just need like some sort of uniformity. Like, if Roman Reigns just went out the day after Zelina gets let go and creates an OnlyFans, is Vince getting rid of him? No.
He's freed the nipple.
Yeah, the titty's out.
And it, like, if the bigger name stars, I feel like, ever made a stand like that, then I don't think the unionization talks would ever be needed. I mean, we talked about that before with Cena, and you know how he just kind of didn't step up when things like this would happen. So now Reigns as the big dog, and I understand why he does, and I'm not putting that on him. That's not his cross to carry.
Right.
But I mean, if they ever went that route, like, there are a handful of names in WWE that could just probably put an easy stop to this by just throwing their hat in the ring.
Well, Styles shut his account down, right? His Twitch account.
But does Styles carry that name? Like, is Style, especially at this point, like, if Vince cut Styles tomorrow, is that as big of a deal as if he cut Roman Reigns?
Well, he's not as big as Roman, and I won't pretend that, but I think it's a big enough name. I think it's a big enough name that you don't want to lose him.
Vega.
Well, sure, 100%.
It's a name you don't want to lose. I'll put it that way.
Okay, I mean, that's fair, but it like, I feel like a name like Reigns with the family ties, Orton with the family ties, Cena for, you know, where he is. I think that any of them, and even Cena just as a part-timer, like, if he did that, is Vince like, well, you're not welcome back anymore? Probably not.
Yeah,
I think that, like, AJ owns he owns the name AJ Styles, and he owns Styles Clash. But he's like worked out an agreement that while he's with WWE owns the licensing of it.
I think so, yeah.
Because it allows them to make merchandise of his. So basically, WWE pays him to use Phenomenal One, AJ Styles Clash,
yeah, all of that.
And they get to make profit off of that merch.
Yeah.
But he still has the ability to do that stuff too.
Right. If and when he no longer works for the WWE, he can go wherever he wants and still be AJ Styles and still have the Styles Clash and still be the phenomenal one and all of that.
Where does this term, and again, it feels like it's only ever brought up when we talk about the WWE, but the independent contractor term in professional wrestling, I feel like that ever only gets applied to the WWE.
I mean,
I think it's wrestlers in general, but it's because like independent wrestlers don't have contracts.
Sure, I get that.
So like, and for the last 10 plus years, for the most part, the only wrestling that's been in town has been, well, at least since 2001, when WWE bought WCW and ECW. Like the big game in town was WWE. Like ROH was an indie. They weren't signing people exclusively until like what, 2 years ago?
Yeah, just the last couple of years.
Impact was signing people, but like they weren't signing everyone.
And they've rebranded 17 times since 2001.
Easily 17 times. Because they've been TNA wrestling, they've been Impact wrestling, they've been NWA TNA.
They were GFW for a while.
They were GFW, yeah, like that shell umbrella corporation. But like it's just weird.
Hey, they made me a photographer for one night, so
yeah, so we got a pretty big rub from GFW.
Yeah, that was a night.
So did Falabala, I think.
Yeah.
The IRS website is quite vague to what defines an independent contractor. What?
Shocking. The IRS website is vague.
Right. It says you are an independent contractor, you are self-employed. And then it goes on to ask what like their tax burdens are. So it's all about the tax burdens. It says you are not an independent contractor if you perform services that can be controlled by an employer. What will be done and how it is done. This applies even if you are given freedom of action. So I don't understand how the WWE, and if maybe it's not the WWE, considering them independent contractors. I think that's the term that the WWE needs to distance themselves from, and either employ these employees and give them some sort of benefits. Again, I don't think wrestlers have great 401ks. I'm not sure.
Right. I mean, they're diversifying their own. They're on their own diversifying, but
sure they can. But like, come on.
Yeah.
How much money is like, man.
Because then if you start thinking about it, they also, as an employer, if these people were, if their contracted talent were on like solid payroll as like a regular employee, I believe the company would have to pay taxes in every state that an employee works in or lives in. Fair. So in order to keep, I bet you something with the independent contractor type status, they avoid having to pay as a company. They avoid having to pay the state taxes or even the international taxes of their international talents. That way,
because I'd be really interested to see what a company like Feld Entertainment, how they handle these situations. That's who used to run Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey, again performing nationwide. They run like Disney on Ice, and like Monster Jam trucks or something like that as well. Yeah, but again, it's like a giant parent company that runs all these smaller things that tours nationwide. Like, were all of the clowns in Ringling Brothers, were they all independent contractors as well at that time as a performer? I assume they probably were, now that we're talking it out.
I mean, the easiest way we can figure this out is if, like, I don't even know how.
Mark, we need you to run off and join the circus. Report back.
No, not right now. There's no live shows right now. So once there's live shows.
If a WWE superstar would go on record as to say whether they got a 1099 or if they got a W-2. A W-2, your taxes come out. A 1099 is everything you make.
Sure.
And then you have to pay the taxes on that.
Okay.
That's the difference between an independent contractor or somebody who's like not necessarily fully on the payroll and someone who is.
Sure.
Someone who is an actual contracted employee.
Three Count Thursday is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app, that's arenaeats.app, for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order? I also don't know if like, and this is just basic me being naive to the situation, like if when they sign a contract, if it's something similar to like if I'm working on a TV show on Fox for the length of time, say it's 4 episodes that I'm working on Fox, I can't go and work for a show on CBS while I'm working on that show on Fox. Like
right.
if it's that sort, like, so I work for myself. I'm not contracted to an agency or whatever. Say I just represent myself, but I sign on to work for this show on Fox. I'm not, I'm not allowed to go work for CBS. Like that was a choice I made by signing on that dotted line. I don't know.
I could
only if they put that in there,
right?
mean,
If it's in the details.
Competing.
And that I think was the point to what Mark Henry said on Busted Open is like, you kind of got to know what you sign up for, more or less. And I understand that like this current thing with the third party platforms, this is a new situation. This is something that came up, and quite frankly,
it's the most 2020 thing in
right.
the history of all.
If there's not a pandemic, I don't think WWE gives a shit that they're on those platforms, and I don't think it becomes a big deal with a lot of people whether or not the people they're allowed to be on them or not. I think
because if everything were back to normal, they would be on the road 4 or 5 days a week
right.
and home 2 or 3. They wouldn't be streaming all the time. They wouldn't have the time to do it.
Right, and they wouldn't need to do that to get that revenue stream and stuff like that.
The amount of time they would have to do cameos, or the amount of time they would have to live stream would be exponentially
right.
downgraded,
right?
Decreased.
Someone's got to film Ride Along.
Right. Like that's another thing too. Like maybe WWE is saying that like because of cameos, the boom of cameos and Twitches and YouTubes, that's time that WWE would have had to make other content like Ride Along or a new season of Swerved or whatever sort of other WWE network material that they had. Now, if WWE was smart, they would just take what's being done and ask if they can put it on the network.
Right. And
then pay that way. But again, it's
Do we not think that WWE is gonna create their own cameo, put it on the WWE shop, and you can get a personalized message for X amount of money?
I'm shocked.
The star gets a little bit.
They
the
just
WWE
did it on Cameo.
And not even
just for the Undertaker, though, right?
They've had virtual meet and greets
recently
for a lot of their wrestlers.
Yeah. Over the last couple months, that's definitely been a thing that's popped up. Is the virtual meeting?
I didn't even really think like that was like a cameo, but that makes sense.
And
but it's
a contract with because they've partnered with like Wizard World for the past 6-7 years now to have appearances there, and whatever else. I mean, they have appearances scheduled all the time, so
there.
I mean, they have to be doing that still.
And I saw they've been doing some with what is it? The one wireless company that they're Cricket Wireless. And this was kind of my point back at the very beginning when like it was Friday night before SmackDown the world started blowing up that like superstars weren't going to be able to be on Twitch and stuff anymore, is there had to be some sort of something that occurred. I know some people rumored that it was Lana promoting like an energy drink on her Instagram. There may have been a couple other things, but the thing I said from the beginning, and this is where I was like, I can see the talent's perspective of like, look, we're not on the road like we normally are. We're not making the money that we normally are. So we want to supplement our income, but where the WWE's going, we have a responsibility to our advertisers and our shareholders. And because like, here's the thing, like the going back to the Lana thing, and I have no clue if this is actually what sparked this change, but she's promoting an energy drink. WWE is sponsored by like Pepsi and Mountain Dew. Mountain Dew has their own line of energy drinks. There's a conflict of interest there. Probably not a huge deal, but that's the tip of the iceberg. If those sort of things keep happening, then eventually, if it hits enough sponsors, if it hits WWE hard enough in the bottom line, that's where it becomes a problem. And I think that's where WWE, from a business side, right, wrong, or indifferent, I'm not saying that they're justified necessarily, but that's where the business side, and it's not always pretty, comes from.
But then, like, in the same scheme of things, would you not feel that the logical line of, I guess, not infringement, but like enforcement of like a conflict of interest be, instead of saying, hey, no one ever in the history of ever can do any third party deals, wouldn't it just make more sense to go, hey, don't do that again, and if you do it again, we're gonna fine you?
Yeah, they definitely went to an extreme.
It's kind of like a kid sneaking around playing video games, and it's like, instead of just taking the console away for like a week and then giving it back,
he hits it with a sledgehammer.
Taking the console and immediately throwing it in a trash fire.
Right.
And like, or no more TVs ever. And just throw away every TV in your house.
Right. And I agree.
This much. If your older brother does that and you see it, your ass ain't playing video games when you're not supposed to, though.
Correct.
Lesson learned. Loud and clear.
Right.
Right, but
Fair
I think
enough. Loud and clear.
WWE just wants their piece, and it kind of goes back to like when Jordan first signed his sneaker deal. Like, Nike wasn't the NBA's sneaker brand, and he got fined every single game.
Wasn't it Converse?
Jordans. Yeah, one of the two.
Yeah, I think it was.
Nike just happily paid that fine, so NBA gets their money, Jordan gets his money, Nike gets their exposure. Everybody wins. Like they could have come to something like that with WWE,
and Nike made more money.
Right.
They then became the outlaw brand. Like, these are the shoes that the NBA won't allow. Like,
right.
So it's a bigger premium to go out and buy the Jordan 1s.
And at the end of the day, the NBA was just like, well, we're finding them. What else do you want us to do to, Converse or whoever? And WWE certainly could have done that.
Now, Mark, when Matt brought up Jordan, did you think he was talking about Jordan Grace there, or
I did get
her new
really
line of sneakers?
Didn't you see the camera raise up a little bit?
I was just thumbing through the digital copy of Jordan Grace's 2021 calendar I have on my Christmas wish list.
Jesus. Yeah. So, and that's, it is a little confusing to me that WWE like went to this extreme right away, because at some level, unless they are, like, Ryan, I think you said it, planning on doing like their own Twitch channel or some sort of version of some sort of gaming platform of their own. They've been doing the virtual meet and greets, they've been doing the cameos. Like, unless WWE is just planning on taking everybody that was on Twitch and doing it under their own channel, like it seems odd that they just went from like 0 to 1,000 right away, because that is a little bit baffling, because and I get if their argument is, you know, that they're taking money out of the WWE's pocket, like why don't you find a way to make it work for you and let these people keep their platforms? So that is where it has been a little bit strange. But like I said,
doesn't the WWE have their own Twitch channel anyway?
Yes.
Why not just feature these stars on a rotation? They can promote it on their own home, like their own little page. Hey, I'm going to be taking over the WWE Twitch page next Friday. Why wouldn't they have just done that?
What if I told you that WWE could do that and it's already built into Twitch? Twitch has the ability to host other channels on their page.
I would tell you that somebody at WWE doesn't know that.
Right. It's the people who made the decision.
Yeah.
And that's why everyone who's on the short end of the stick of it is like, but you could do this, and you could do this, and you could do this. And
the WWE has 70,000 Twitch followers. That seems like a really small number.
Okay, so let me put that into perspective. I'm trying to think of who all still has.
I'm not a Twitcher, but 70,000 does not seem like a huge number for the WWE.
Right. For
So WWE had 70,000. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Claudio Castagnoli, aka Cesaro, had 37,000.
Wow. Okay.
So half.
Right.
Let's see. Adam Cole's Twitch channel
Baby
has 50.9 thousand followers. WWE 70.7.
That's not a big difference between the two.
Let's look at AJ Styles. AJ Styles,
I'm assuming
45.7.
I think the point Tim's making here is people are watching these channels because they're not on WWE. So if you put them on WWE, you're getting that extra exposure.
Yeah.
Like when I follow that channel, if I want to watch Adam Cole and he's not on it, then I'm not going to watch it.
Right. And the thing about like Twitch too is like people stream when they want to stream, when they can stream. And there's a thing like there's a big part of like co-streaming where two people stream at the same time and they play the same thing and you can watch them at the same time. It's not like television where there's a set schedule and a rotation and things like that. Austin Creed
still has her, correct?
Yeah. So Austin Creed has 88.8 thousand followers.
Okay.
Paige has 160,000 followers. So over double WWE's
right, and that's the baffling part.
So you take her account and you have her say, follow me, watch me, follow the WWE. I'm going to be there Thursday doing what I do. And that it's mind-blowing how they fumbled this.
Yeah.
Here's what probably happened. WWE probably told all of these people, hey, you have to play Battleground on your Twitch. And they were like,
that's fair.
Nope.
Yep. That makes sense.
Well, and here's the thing. So Paige could boot up her stream on her own channel. Like her own channel by herself. But all WWE has to do is a host command, and immediately Paige's stream is on the WWE's Twitch channel.
Jesus. Yeah, I don't it
is as easy as /host channel name, enter.
They could literally pay me to do that.
And the thing is that people who want to interact on Paige's chat can go to Paige's channel. But for people who only follow the WWE, if they go to the WWE Twitch page, somebody could be up streaming.
Yeah.
And they could just watch whoever's there. And then if somebody from that channel or somebody from that feed wants to go and support the person directly, they can give bits. They can subscribe to that person's channel. Wow. WWE can have subscribers on their channel.
yeah, it's and it kind of wrap up the thought here, and then we'll take our break. We'll come back and we'll talk about the Survivor Series. But like it's far more complicated, I think, than something as simple as like wrestlers good, WWE bad. Like, yes, the WWE is doing things that aren't great for their talent. They can obviously they certainly can kind of update the way they conduct business and make it better. And I'm not even necessarily saying like they need to provide like health insurance. Would it help? Sure, absolutely. But like it's not something that like necessarily like has to be a thing, because I know like that was one thing with AEW, but like doing a little bit, and I'm talking like the most basic of research, that apparently the only people in AEW that have the health insurance are like actual people that have like office jobs with AEW, not like the wrestlers themselves. So like this notion that it's like WWE is just the only evil monster, again, isn't necessarily true as well. But like they could certainly update business practices and capitalize on things like these streaming services and stuff like that. They could do things smarter and better and update themselves to the 21st century. But like the thing I said from the beginning, and we can go around and wrap up our thoughts, this is a complicated situation, and I don't think that it's going to get I don't think there's going to ever be like a true union. I really don't. Like, I mean, Andrew Yang can be as loud as he wants to be, and maybe it's the catalyst for change. I don't think there's going to be a union, but it to me it's a complicated situation, and I can see both sides have their own validity.
Andrew Yang, Wang Yang, doesn't make a difference. I don't think there's going to be an actual union within the WWE at all. I really don't. To the Twitch point, real quick, make sure you follow my favorite follower. He is a pop culture nerd, a sports fan, and a game enthusiast. It's not the Tool Man, all one word. Make sure you give him a follow there on Twitch.
One part from the 83 Weeks podcast was actually something that was brought up by Conrad and not necessarily Eric.
Connie.
And that is, if WWE does have to go the way of paying out these actual contracts and make these people employees, at the end of the day, if it costs the WWE more money to have all of these people be full-time employees, then they're just going to fire the number of people that it takes to stay profitable.
Yep.
Which means less developmental deals. Say goodbye to NXT UK. Say goodbye to
a good portion of NXT. Let's be honest.
Possibly like very minimal. Like you thought that the cuts we just had for COVID were nonsensical. Wait till everybody's a full-time employee and WWE has to pay money overhead. Vince McMahon, and he has a responsibility to the shareholders of the WWE who pay to be invested in the company. And it is his responsibility, and it's the responsibility of any company that is publicly traded.
Yes.
That the first person you are responsible to is not yourself, it's not your employees, it is your shareholders. If you are not making your shareholders money, then you are not doing your job, and therefore there is cause for concern.
Yep.
And so whatever changes have to be made, as long as Vince is in the black and he's turning record numbers like he's turning right now in the pandemic, what by any means necessary, so long as the shareholders, the people who buy into the WWE at a financial level, those who have skin in the game, they stay. If you got skin in the game, you stay in the game. And it's the shareholders that'll be the ones that, if they are so perturbed by any of this, they speak up and
Like-
make mention of it.
Like, I don't remember the exact date of the cuts, but I know that WWE stock bottomed out this year on like March 18th. It was down into the low 30s. Today it traded at closed at 41. So I mean, it's definitely lower than it's been in a while.
April 15th, 16th.
So a couple of weeks after the stock bottomed out at the start of the pandemic. Like, you know, like there's a reason that it's not pretty. It's not, to me, it's not like justified, but also like the WWE isn't the only company that did make cuts in March, April, May, June, July, August. I can keep going. Like it's crappy, but it unfortunately it's that's the business world. And like you said, it's their responsibility. Number one responsibility is to the shareholder. Once they went public, that changed everything. With the WWE, Matt and Mark, any closing thoughts before we take a break?
No, I mean it's we'll talk about it later, but it's just I feel like another missed opportunity for WWE, and there have been a lot of those lately, and it's unfortunate because I feel like the people that suffer are just their talent who just really loved what they were doing on Twitch.
Yeah,
I mean you saw how broken up Paige was about that, so like not getting to share that part of her life with her fans, I'm sure was a big blow to her, and it sucks because a lot of fans clearly enjoyed watching her do that. So I hope that they can find some way to rectify this in the future. I think that if you kind of make this rash decision immediately, you can always kind of backtrack it as opposed to like continuing to make cuts along the line. So that is the one saving grace they have in all of this, is they do have the ability to kind of take a step back, say, hey, we overreacted to this. Here's what we'll do moving forward. And I hope we see that.
Sure. Mark, anything?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not real knowledgeable on when it comes to unions and wrestling. I mean, I've heard about it for years. And it kind of sounds like WWE's almost wanted both ways and wants their cake and eat it too, and almost kind of overreaching. But this is uncharted territory with Twitch and, of course, the pandemic and all that. But I really, I don't see it ending well, really, for WWE, especially if a union does happen. It's going to be ugly real fast. But I don't see why the WWE wrestlers can't be on Twitch and try to make money on their own. I can see both sides, but it's really kind of, I don't know. It'd be nice to have both sides come together and agree to something where both parties are satisfied. But this is going to be a tough, uncharted territory here for sure.
Yeah, I'm definitely no expert in unions, but I know this. If you work for a company that has a union, I've heard you don't speak against the union. If you work for a company that doesn't have a union, you don't talk about unions. Like that's kind of like the extent of my knowledge. Like if you don't have it, don't talk about it. If you have it, don't talk against it. And that's because look at this situation that we're in and we've discussed here for 40 minutes or what have you. It just is what it is. Three Count Thursday is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app, that's arenaeats.app, for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order?